Nothing. Patriots roll 28-16, advance to the AFC title game for the first time since 2018. That was their last Super Bowl win. It's their 16th AFC title game appearance in franchise history, tied for the most time, all time that is, with the Pittsburgh Steelers, as May and the Pats move on. All right, a look at some numbers here, and this is a well-known matchup, especially in the AFC title game. The last 3 times they've met, now 3. The last 2 times they've met, it's been in the AFC Championship game a decade ago in 2015, 2 years prior in 2013. A lot of Manning and Brady in there. Well, it'll be May and Stidham this Sunday for the AFC title. Back in studio with the fellas to take a look at what's next for the Houston Texans. And JJ, we've been having this conversation for the better part of a couple months here as the spotty play of CJ Stroud has offered a little bit of question to what felt like a sure thing after those first 18 games his rookie season. Contractually, what we see nowadays is after year 3 with these prized quarterbacks, we come to the table and we do the dance. What does this offseason look like after this end scene and some of what we've seen throughout the year for Stroud these last 2 years?
So you're right. Absolutely, Joe. Usually after year 3, you can do a contract with your top quarterback. And, of course, number 2 overall pick, offensive rookie of the year, his rookie year, typically this summer would be the time. I don't know that any deal is going to be reached. If the Houston Texans wanted to reach a long-term contract extension with C.J. Stroud, it would have to be at a number that C.J. Stroud, I cannot imagine, and his representation would accept, right? Because you just haven't seen enough these past 2 years. Now, look at comps. The quarterback in the year prior is Brock Purdy. He got a $53 million per year contract this past summer when he was ready to go. You're not getting there with C.J. Stroud after this season, right? And so now you look at it, okay, Bryce Young was drafted number 1 overall. What are the Panthers doing with him? They are using the 5th-year option for Bryce Young, and they're saying, we want to see it again in 2026, and we'll kick the can down the road and figure it out. And if it costs us more money later, that's okay, but we're not locking into it right now. I suspect that is something the Houston Texans ultimately will do. Nick Caserio, the general manager, has been very good about paying guys a year early rather than a year late. We have seen that across the roster. But when it comes to the quarterback position and the amount of cap that you have to devote to that quarterback position, you have to get it right. And I think I cannot imagine they're going to be able to agree on a number for these two sides.
So, JJ, you highlighted the financial terms moving forward with C.J. Stroud. I would like to highlight the football side of things.
Please.
How can the Houston Texans get the rookie year C.J. Stroud back in the building? Because what we've seen since C.J. Stroud's rookie year has kind of been a decline in production with how well he performed his rookie year, because we felt like he was going a direction where only few quarterbacks can go based on how good he was. But then when I look at the numbers, guys, his rookie year, completed 63% of his passes, 23 touchdowns, only 5 interceptions. Remember, we praised him for being so smart with the football.
Yeah.
He was sacked 38 times. In year 2, 3,700 yards, over 3,700 yards, 63% completion percentage, 20 touchdowns, 12 interceptions, but he was sacked 52 times. Mm-hmm. Now, what they did this season, Joe, they had one of the worst offensive lines in the National Football League in 2024. But they went and traded away their best asset from a bad line, and Laramie Tunsil.
They were trying to be a year early on this.
But you're trying to be a year early. You actually got worse.
Yep.
Because he was a part of a bad unit, but he was the best player on that said bad unit, which was the offensive line. So now you came into this season trying to revamp the offensive line, trying to get ahead of potential financial problems, but you did no justice in helping a young quarterback, and of course he was dealing with injuries. So you look at how he was under duress in this playoff game. Yeah. You look at how he was under duress last week in Pittsburgh. If your offensive line isn't better, if they don't get better, if they don't improve, your quarterback will not improve.
Yeah.
Remember how bad Drake may look in spurts his rookie year. And what we said, who's protecting him? Who's keeping him upright? They revamped the offensive line for the better good. They became better. And guess what? Your quarterback became better.
Yeah.
Man, so that's the first common sign for a team in terms of high-level quarterback play. What will your offensive line do?
Yep.
And how consistent can they be? So that's something I will look at. You make great points about the financial terms. Right now, he won't have the financial leverage we thought he would have.
That's right.
Coming after year 3. But if you're Houston, okay, let's find a way to get the most out of C.J. Stroud. How can we do that? Improve the offensive line.
Yeah, it looked far more unsure from the contractual standpoint, but also from the C.J. Stroud and football standpoint. Looks like there's a hesitation right now that it did not look like there was a free-wielding sense to his game early on in his career, but you make a great point about the offensive line and protecting the football. If we are putting C.J. Stroud, JJ, in the best position to succeed, what does that look like moving forward as we assess the free agents and the current financial situation there in Houston?
Well, there is no question about figuring out the offensive line, and that should probably be priority number 1. I also want to say I think they got the offensive coordinator right there in Houston. Bobby Slowick wasn't the guy for C.J. Stroud. They brought in Nick Caley. You remove the first 3 games of the season. This offense was pretty good when C.J. Stroud, or when the quarterback, did not turn over the football. They also locked in Davis Mills on a multi-year contract, so they have the backup quarterback position taken care of. I know in this game we have talked about how they didn't have Nico Collins for this game, didn't have Dalton Schultz, lost their other tight end. Let's also remember that for this entire season, they didn't have Tank Dell.
Yeah.
And for this entire season, they didn't have who was supposed to be RB1 in Joe Mixon, right? And so from a team building standpoint, you think about this, gosh, figure out this offensive line. 1 year of all those guys working together. Hopefully in 2026 they get better. But he did have the weapons starting out, at least in theory, on paper. They're going to have to figure out that offensive line because I do think that they have the offensive weaponry around him.
Yeah, when you look at the free agents, you look at guys, you traded for Christian Kirk. We know he's a proven commodity. I don't think you want to bring a guy into your organization for only 1 year. But his number, I don't know what his number would look like. You talk about getting Tank Dell back. Even with him being cleared at some point in time, we believe in 2026. You don't know, will he become the Tank Dell of old?
It was a serious injury.
It was a very, very serious injury. And the thing about Tank Dell, his game was predicated on speed and quickness because he's an undersized wide receiver. You look at Sheldon Rankins. I think anything on that defensive line you want to keep intact as best as possible because we know what they can do in terms of the continuity and the rhythm that they already have established. So they have some serious questions that will need to be answered because for such a long time they've had a hold. Since D'Amico has become the head coach there, they've had a hold on their division. But the Jacksonville Jaguars with Lim Cohen, I don't see them slowing down anytime soon. And we saw how the Colts jumped out the blocks to start the season. So the AFC South will be a little more competitive than what we've seen in years past. And I think for Houston, you have to continue to monitor what's going on and make sure whatever moves you make, they're calculated and they're for the greater good of the team.
And then consider who they're playing next year. So the AFC South is getting better. They have the AFC North that they face, so that's going to be difficult. They have the NFC East, so that's going to be difficult. And because they finished second in the AFC South, they get the Buffalo Bills. As we know, they have the Green Bay Packers, and they have the LA Chargers.
Wow.
That is, I mean, look at the schedule right here. Okay, so, I mean, you deal with your division, of course. You have, again, the AFC North, you get the NFC East, and then my goodness, to get the second teams with the Green Bay Packers and the Chargers, that's going to be very difficult for the Texans.
To your point, you got to be so good just to afford yourself these sorts of opportunities. And once again, the Houston Texans good enough to get to a divisional round, but not good enough to get any further. Gentlemen, thank you. A look here at where those have come to rest, and unfortunately, it's been the divisional round. 0-7 in the divisional round. That includes losses in 3 consecutive seasons as the Houston Texans remain the only franchise in the NFL to never make a conference championship game.